And yeah, I'm on the way home. So I was really thinking about something that really just, I don't know, like, I've talked to y'all so many times about divorce and the repercussions of divorce and how it puts a toll on your children, your family. So my father's finally out of the hospital, which I'm really glad and I'm happy about. And I've been really worried for my father. Like, that's my father. I mean, I think anyone who has a parent who's dealing with some health issues would be worried and want to be there for their parent. And I find myself not even finding myself, like, I am the one, two, I'm the fourth oldest child of my father. And I'm the second oldest child with him and my mother, their batch, you know. But I'm his fourth oldest, so I am the fourth child. For it's my mother is, yeah, I'm the fourth child. So growing up, I can honestly say that I wasn't really a daddy's girl. Like, you know what I'm saying? I was really more so like a mama's girl. Like, I had to be under my mother at all times. My father, I loved my father. He was there up until he left my mother and us for a woman and, committed adultery. He had children. Later on down the years, he ended up getting a divorce. And I'm not saying this to shame my dad or anything, because I love my father. My father, me and him, one thing I would say, my father taught me about the Lord. He taught me about Jesus, and he was not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But today when I left my father, I saw him, sitting in a wheelchair. I braided his hair because he had he said when he was in the daggone rehab, people said he looked like Don King. But I braided his hair, made sure he was situated. Um, and I said, "All right, Dad, I'll see you later." And I could see him sitting there looking at his shows. He's like, "Okay," but he's by himself. And here it is, 11 o'clock, and I on this particular day, not this particular, usually on this day, I'm not supposed to be working, or I get off work at 5 o'clock. But really, I'm not supposed to be working. But I worked today, and I didn't get off until late. Then I had to, make sure that my father was okay before I head home. I'm gonna tell you what a product of divorce will do. Now, I'm trying to move my father somewhere else so he could be more neutrally close to me, close to my sister, and somewhere where it's wheelchair accessible. And it dawned, really, the thing is that in a heartbeat, my father, I'd be like, he needs to stay with me. But the reason why that cannot happen is because him and my mother, my father and my mother, they got the divorce. They got their bill of divorce. They're not married. They don't get along. And because of that, me being their child, I am running back and forth. Yeah, and that by all means, I'm not complaining because that is my father and I'm stepping up to the plate. But if he would have stuck with my mother, I honestly believe that his health would be so much better. If he would have stuck by my mother and my mother by him, he would have a companion to talk to instead of sitting there. And it's like the only, But another thing, a product of divorce. You want to listen to this? My child, she doesn't want for anything, but it was two parents that she wasn't really able. When she saw me this morning when I'm helping her play her game, but today because mommy was working, you know, um, and had to run errands, and I thank God for my mother being there to look after my child. But both of her parents weren't there today. I mean, I was there earlier, but I'm on my way. Look, it's 11:20, and I know by the time I get home, my child will be sleeping. But I have to provide for her. You know, God is providing for us, but I got to do what I got to do to make sure that she's okay. But I mean, I was just sitting in here and I was just thinking like the ripple effects of divorce. Because in the real world, my father and my mother would be like, oh, I'm taking. First of all, my father probably wouldn't even be in the situation that he is in right now if him and my mother was together. And I say this because anybody who's thinking about putting away their wife, walking away, you got to pay attention to what you are doing. You gotta really understand that it dawned to me. I mean, not even dawned, but I've already knew this, but I was thinking about this earlier, and I was like, we don't have that long on earth, y'all. We really don't. Because I remember when my father used to run. I remember when he was in his heyday, when he was young. I remember that. And the crazy part about it is that, you know, my mother, she's getting older too. You know, I'm just seeing what mama, and she's by herself as well. I mean, she got her granddaughter and, you know, her children, but it wasn't supposed to be like that. And then a heartbeat is like, I have to, I'm just like, okay, I gotta spend time with my child. But at the same time, make sure that my parents are okay. And I really believe that if they would have stuck it in, if they would have stuck by the word, if they would have forgave one another, then I wouldn't be here almost midnight riding down the road trying to get back home. And this is not to sit up here and say, "Oh, I'm sick and tired." 'Cause, I know folks where they're just like, I'm not dealing with my father. I don't care, whoop, whoop, whoop. And I'm going by the book. Honor thy father and thy mother. And I'm asking other siblings and stuff like that. Like everybody got to step up and do their shit. Some folks like I ain't about to deal with that. I got and I'm just like, the only reason why I can't is because my mother is, me and my mother is together, and she's been so hurt by my father. They don't get along. I mean, they get along, but she's not going to, she raised four children basically on her own, and she had to bury her only son, and she been through a lot of things with my father, him cheating, adultery, and marrying somebody else, and denying his children. You know what I'm saying? Like she's been through so much, and then yes, it's forgiveness because even right now, the crazy part about it is, even right now, when I tell her about what's going on with my father, my mother is giving me directions on everything to do. No, he needs to have this. He needs to do that. Make sure you call the VA. And I'm like, okay, mom. All right. Make sure you do this. You do that. And I'm like, all right, mom. And no, he got to do this. I'm like, okay, mom. I'm like, I'm listening to my mother because some things too, it's really hard for me, to deal with on my own. That I'm like, nah, just you married him, mom. Like somebody's not. This is not all going to be on me, and I'm not saying it is, but when it comes to things where it's just like it's a sad thing to see your people go through. Yeah, I need my mother. I need her strength. I need God gives me strength, but my mother knows. See, a wife knows. You see what I'm saying? Y'all some stupid dudes out there. Y'all so stupid. And I'm not saying that my father, I think the thing that hurts the most is that I'm driving, to go to my home, which is big enough for my dad too. But because of the product of the divorce decree and those bill of divorces, the unforgiveness of folks, you leave your children to have to pick it up. And I'm not saying that God is not blessing me on the way, because He's making sure I get back and forth. But like, I was thinking to myself while I was at my job, I'm trying to make this position, trying to get this position that I'm already doing. And I realized, like, is it really worth it? I mean, yeah, you getting the money. Crazy part about it is that I made more than when I was a step down than the actual position is even offering last year. And I said, God, you got a funny way of doing things. I kept speaking that into existence, and I actually made it. But I started to think to myself, like, is this even, I'm like, okay, let me just get all of this stuff down pat. Once I know how to run everything real good, then I'll be back on schedule. And then I said, you know what, God know what He's doing, because all that overtime is being a blessing towards, my household, my family. But at the same time, it's like those precious moments with my daughter, I know it, she'll be a teenager. Next thing you know, she'll be a young woman. Like, those are precious to me. And at the same time, I'm looking at, my parents, and I'm looking at them in their fragile stage. And I'm like, people don't understand. Like, at one point in time, you're not going to be young anymore. You're not. And you're going to need the folk, who you, till death do you part, those that you marry, your children. You know what my god sister told me, because her mother passed away last year, the year before, about a year ago. She said, that her mother was blessed to have so many. Her mother was blessed to have children. Her mother was blessed to have a lot of daughters. And she did. I think she is like six of them, 6 or 7 of them. Because when her mother started deteriorating, and basically, she was in a hospice stage, all of the daughters took turns taking care of her. So it was like, okay, you go here, you go there, you get this day, you get that day, we all gonna take care of mom. You know what I mean? Y'all don't think that over. Y'all don't think about that. You leave your children, especially you guys out there that got like a football team, and your kids don't even know you. And then when you get to the point where you can't do, they're gonna act like they don't know you. You may have somebody that may have sympathy on you and realize you are my father. I guess the thing that I'm most frustrated about right now is just that it didn't have to be that way. But that's the decisions people make. My father made a decision to be with another woman. My mother made a decision to divorce him because of that. They both made a decision to go and live their life the way they wanted to. And my mother, she had to go endure a lot, you know, where she raised her children, never had a man around. I remember one time, and then she was just like, "Nah, I got daughters. I can't have no guy around, my daughters." So she just basically, it was her going to church and doing what she got to do. And her heart was really broken when her son died. My brother Pat went on to be with the Lord. And there's a lot of things that my father did that was just, and now looking at it, it's like, We forgive, I forgive, my mother forgive, and it's more like I really feel bad. I really feel bad. And I feel, you know what I mean? Like, if it was my way, my mother and my father would be where I'm at right now. But because they don't get along, it's Mona, you go. It's back and forth, back and forth. And my sister, she came by today and dropped them off some food and everything. Like, we just doing this rotation thing, but it was a product of divorce. It's a product of your bill of divorce. Yeah, which you do now, you don't even understand. Your children are going to be dealing with it. Your mom and dad is getting a divorce. It's the most devastating thing you could possibly say to a child. Their whole entire whatevers have been ripped underneath them. Now, on this day, you could go to dad house. On that day, you can go to mom. And then when you try to go to mom, she's unavailable. Y'all have no idea. Like, y'all go get old. Y'all gonna get old. But yeah, so I want to be very prayerful in where God wants to lead me. I'm grateful that I have a job, because nowadays a lot of folks, they basically lost their jobs because of these mandates and things being shut down. So I'm grateful that I'm able to work, but I'm not gonna lie, like I have been really, like, I've been running, like running. I gotta go in. I know my daughter is sleeping, and I gotta get ready for the next day, making sure I get the paperwork. And I was just like, Jesus to the creepers. And I'm not at all. I'm grateful because God put me in a position where uh, I'm starting to think, like, it's like Ecclesiastics chasing after the wind. What's it all for? You make a company millions, and then when they sell off and go to something else, you back at square one. So is it really worth it? So that's where I'm at right now, and I'm just like, okay, I'm basically 40 years old. I have to make a decision in my life, like, you're going to be a part of this rat race. Know what's important. Family is important, but not but family is God is important. I just hate to see my father like that. I hate to see my father like that. It was funny, y'all. I said, "All right, Dad," because he had his hair in that little bush. I said, "I'm gonna braid your hair. You gonna look like a cat." You know how them two braids going back. I said, "Oh, Dad, you look pretty young." He looked at the mirror. He was cracking up laughing. But I wonder what he thinking when he's sitting in that chair like that. Like, I wonder what he was going through his mind. I wonder what he thinking. But anyway, again, it's a product of your divorce. So when you walked away, did anybody ever think about the children, what they was going to deal with, or what they grew up, or when they grew up, what they was going to have to deal with, right? I ain't think about that. It must be, got to be lovely, especially for married folks, folks that stayed together, through the thickness, through the storm, and still together. It got to be real nice when you go home and your wife is there to talk to you. Your husband is there to talk to you. Even if something bad happened to you, they still by your side. You know, if you went blind, they still there and you can hear their voice. You know what I mean? If you went deaf, they still there and you can see them. It must be really nice because a lot of people, you realize how God intended for things to be, and He knew. You know what I mean? Like, He knew. He knew that one day you were going to get old. That's why the Bible says, be good to your children. And I will say my father was good to me when I was young. He broke my heart though when he left my mother for another woman. He broke my heart too when he promised that he was going to be there and he wasn't. Now I would say this: years ago, I had a dream where Symphony was just a baby, my daughter, and I think she was like maybe an infant. She was the infant, and her father was holding her, and I was rubbing her back, and I could feel the hurt that my daughter had not having her father. And the crazy part about it was she was just a baby. And her father was just literally like patting her back, and I could feel that hurt. And it was like a hurt I can't even describe. And while her father was holding her and like comforting her and I was rubbing her back, my father-in-law was walking towards us because it was like as if we were being restored. And when he was walking towards us, I put my hand up to stop my father-in-law, like, don't come near us. Just don't. But I remember that dream that I had 2 years ago. And I often think, like, I wonder, do children feel even in infancy when another parent is not there? And yes, I get it. God is the comfort of everything. God is the father of everything. He's there and he loves us unconditional. I understand that. I get that. But I'm not gonna lie, like while I'm driving down this road, it is frustrating. It is frustrating because if there's two, you could work quicker. If it's two, one fall down, the other one could pick the other one up. If it's two, you could both keep each other warm. The Bible talks about that. So don't get it twisted. Yes, when if you're one, God will still be with you and provide. But y'all don't be, man. And then I think it was frustrating me too because not too long ago when I was talking about my father, well-being is like some people got this nonchalant feeling about it. And I'm like, but you can't force nobody to do something. And trust me, when people burn their bridges, people walk away. People walk away. Anywho, God is good. I'm grateful my father's alive. He survived that whole COVID ordeal. Um, I guess they realized when they transferred him to the hospital, he's real healthy, and they sent him back. And then, you know, it's been a challenge, but at the same time, it's been a real wake up call too. First of all, wake up call that you're so grateful for nurses and aides. I'm grateful for them because the stuff that they go through, and when you have to help out, and when you have to do it, you know, you realize, daggone it, you know what I mean? But then you realize back in the day, oh, that right now, that's what kinfolk do. That's what kinfolk do. But see, y'all keep living y'all lives like y'all not gonna be there. Where you gonna need help getting up the daggone steps. And everybody like, where your children? I remember one time, and I shared this with y'all. Matter of fact, I was with my husband at that time. We were on our way to perform somewhere. And I was already late, and I was told by my manager, do not be late. And I'm like, okay, I'm on my way, I'm on my way, I'm on my way. And I saw this old man staggering. And his dude had to be like maybe 90 years old. He's staggering and he can barely walk. He had his groceries. He was trying his best. I mean, it was awful just to look at. And I'm like, nobody's going to offer him anything. I mean, he was so old, you knew he wasn't going to do no harm. You could see the police did kind of looked away, and everybody else kind of looked away. And then I'm already late, and I was like, you know what? This is probably my test from God. So I asked the man, I said, excuse me, sir, do you need a ride? Because if he walking, he had to be not too far away. I was thinking he was going to be like, no, thanks. He was like, oh, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Now, remember, I'm already late for us boarding onto this bus and performing. And I'm like, okay. So I went ahead. The guy gets in. He's all taking his time. And I'm all trying, being patient. Because I'm like, this is the Christian thing to do. And when I go to take him to his place, I asked him, like, where are your kids? Like, where are your children? Like, where are your sons? Where are your kids at? And he was just like, my son ain't nothing. Like, I'm like, whoa, well, he got a son, but he ain't nothing. So he ain't don't have nobody that's there. And so anyway, I took him where he needed to go and dropped him off. And I made it on time. I wasn't even late. And I remember another man where I used to work at. You see him, he looked like he soiled himself. But you could tell back in the day, like 80 years back in the day, you could tell he was a good looking man. I mean, anytime he started talking about he went to go see Lena Horne, I'm like, Lena Horne? That was ages ago. But you could tell back in the day, he was a good catch. He had to look fly. And I'm like, you were never married? Never married. Didn't have any children. And I'm not saying that, some people got a reason for it. He had a girlfriend, never married. And I'm like, dad. I don't know, you guys. That's just me just thinking things you do. Can't, when a house is divided like that, again, you have your children pick and choose the days. Oh, I got them on this day. Or the father got to get the baby on this day, or the mother got to get the baby. And they don't even want to go. But the court is making them do it. You know what type of impact they're going to have on their life? Y'all better wake up. We don't got long, not in the flesh. And I started to think about my dog Solo. I watched him as a puppy, as a young dog, and an old dog deteriorate right before my eyes. And now I'm seeing my father, and I'm not saying he's deteriorating. I'm just seeing him old. I didn't think I was gonna see him like this. My mother, she's not getting any younger either. Heck, I'm not getting any younger. But it's crazy though, because all of the folks back in the day, they made sure they're not getting rid of their wife or whatever like that. They knew what time it was. Anyway, I'm home. So the moral of the story is this: don't let that paper come in between your inheritance and the long run, the long road. Like, don't let it come in between that. Don't let it divide your children. Don't let it think long and hard Some people say they stayed together for the children's sake, and that was a good thing. That was a good sacrifice. That wasn't even a sacrifice. That was just something you were supposed to do anyway once you got married. Some people like, well, I wouldn't want my mother to be unhappy. Woo, woo, woo. Some people going out here living in their best lives, going straight to hell. But the truth of the matter is this: is like driving all the way down the road from seeing my father, having to financially do stuff on that end when we could all be, doing us here. But again, that was a decision he made years ago. And because of that, it is what it is. I know God is still having his way, but y'all don't think about that. And I know some people look at it now, but you don't think about it. When your son has to go, oh, I got him on this holiday, you got him on that holiday. You didn't start in a whole nother family. Now your child can't speak to you, see you, but once you start dealing with some health issues, and people don't want to deal with you and they're treating you some type of way. And I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen it with my own eyes. People treat older people like as if they're nothing. Some people still have respect, but inside of these senior citizen homes, they be dogging them. They be dogging them. I've walked in there and seen, like I saw an old lady yesterday, and she was in a wheelchair just crying out for help, and nobody was helping her. I'm like, where's her children? Where's her people at? Where's her husband? What's going on? Y'all better think this up because I'm trying to tell you something. I noticed this every time when I walked in the room to see my dad. His whole aura, like his face lit up. Like everything is just like, you got to be there for your people. But I just wish that my mother and him was just there to see this through together. See, because if I'm gonna just say, let's just say that my mom and my father was together. Again, I don't think he would be in the health state that he's in. Plus, she would be dealing with all of his affairs. I'll be calling like, "Hey, mom, what's going on?" Nothing much. Your father had an appointment, this, that, and the third. Okay. Yeah, just be very prayerful. Make sure you watch out for this. Okay, all right. And I'll be on my way. How you doing? Doing great. On the way in the house. Husband there too. That's what marriage is. But people are selfish, selfish, selfish. It's not like that. Okay, I get it. I get it. And some of y'all can feel. Some of y'all feel me. Some of y'all say to yourselves too, like, woulda, coulda, shoulda. What if we would have stuck it through? What if this person gave their life over to Christ and loved me like Christ loved the church, and I submitted to Him like the church submitted to Jesus Christ? How things would have been? What if we would have held together and had our children in our home and raised them and not allow the world to do it? What if we didn't walk away? Then our children would have more time with us, and we will watch them grow, and they will watch us get old, and they will be there for us like we were there for them. What if? No, but y'all want to live y'all best life. Anyway, God is good, and His mercy endures forever. His mercy endures forever. God is good. Let me get on up in here. I know my Tinachi. I know she is asleep. She was playing that video game early. She said, "Mommy, help!" I was like, Tiffany, you can do this. You're smart. You're smarter than smart. She's like, you, if you get over here and help me. I said, all right, this is what you do. I was running a little bit behind, but I was like, nah, I gotta stay and play a little bit of this video game with my daughter. I gotta spend quality time with my child. Even with this whole grinding stuff, back and forth to work, I'm like, I gotta spend quality time with God. Then I ain't even gonna lie. What was going through the back of my mind? I shouldn't be dealing with this. But that's what happens when sometimes, I'm not gonna say that's what happens when you're a single parent. When them divorce papers come, you gotta do what you gotta do. And I'm not complaining because God has provided. He has provided. He has provided. And He's continually provided. But I ain't stupid into knowing that this is a product of a decision that somebody had made. Just like I made that decision when I walked down the aisle, for better or for worse. And even in these times, you just got to be grateful. My dad is alive. Mama's alive. We all got roofs over our head. And we're eating right now. And I have to really start going back to. But anyway, y'all, let me get ready for work tomorrow because, I have to get up in the next 6 hours. Yeah, I got to get up in the next 6 hours. hmm Let me get these keys out. Jeepers to the creeps. Where are my keys? All right. Y'all have a blessed night and thank you for riding with me.